Welcome back to the Rundown Podcast. My name is Abe Hicks, joined by my main man, Dylan Kearns. We are back better than ever. The All-Star break is 2 weeks away. The trading deadline is right around the corner. So much is going on. We're going to get right into it today. But first off, Dylan, how you doing? How you feeling, man?
Yeah, I mean, we had a little bit of a break here. You went to Arizona. I see you rocking the hat. I went to Florida. We both went to baseball games during our time away, so I think that adds to the podcast a little bit.
We sure did.
But yeah, I mean, it's great. We got some time away. We're getting into the nice July area. We've already made it to July now, and now it's the 4th of July. It's trade deadline prep, and we'll really see how these teams fare down the stretch.
Yes, sir. No doubt. And no doubt. And we're also going to get into some, pre-All-Star break breakdowns of some teams that have been really struggling lately, including some of our favorites. But before we get into all that and into the trading deadline and all the All-Star talk, we want to highlight our sponsor here at the Rundown Media, Spiders Batting Gloves. Go check them out. They got some really good stuff there. Batting gloves, whatever equipment you need. When you're in that batter's box, they got it for you. Go check them out. Get 15% off with our code RUNDOWN15. Go check them out. They gave us a pair, and Dylan can highlight it for you. He's already used them in his men's softball league. They're really, really good.
Yeah, definitely love it. Don't like that layout, but yeah, there we go. Yeah, definitely. I've got my use out of them, and they're pretty solid. I've used a couple pair already, and they seem to be doing well. So big fan. And yeah, head on over. They feel good too. Sometimes you get those batting gloves that are clumpy and you're like, you can't get a feel for them. Those are like, they feel like a golf glove, which is really nice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go check them out. Rundown 15 at spidersbattinggloves.com. All right. So as we get into the main piece of our show, we're going to highlight and start off with the New York Yankees. The Yankees really struggled in June. According to Yankees standards, and the Cubs have also struggled in June as well. Some of our favorite teams, but we're going to first talk about the Yankees, and they definitely struggled in June, especially compared to what an amazing start they had to the year. They're currently tied in first place in the AL East. Dylan, what do you make of the June struggles from the Pinstripes?
Yeah, I mean, here's what I think about it. I don't necessarily think that it's a team that's going to collapse because we've seen enough in the first few months of the year to where you're not too worried about what they're going to bring to the table. I think right now, one thing you look at is it scares me that Stanton's on the shelf. It scares me that some of these guys that are usually going down are starting to go.
Hold on. Does it scare you? Because it happens every year. He's hitting
the
IO
with the hamstring. That's why the team struggles some every year. Like they were healthy for a long stretch this year, which is a long stretch in Yankees terms when you make it to July, or make it into June. But when you look at the injuries there, I mean, it's a common occurrence, but it's a common reason why the Yankees struggle so much throughout the course of their season with a talented roster. But now I think every team goes through some rough patches. There's enough veterans in that room. There's enough winning success that they've seen the product work that they're not going to give up and worry about a small little swoon in June for that matter. So another month ahead, they'll get an all-star break, relax, refresh, and come out strong. I still think they're going to win the division and take it pretty easily.
That's what I like to hear. The Yankees, they were 3-7 in the last 10 games, but from all the media attention talking about how much they struggled, and you highlighted, they were 14-13 in June. They had one game over. They were one game over 500 in June. So the losing skid felt a lot worse than what it actually was. And part of the reason why it was really bad in some spots is the bottom of the lineup was awful in June. 4 through 9 brought no production. And as you mentioned, Giancarlo Stanton being hurt, that's going to hurt the lineup. And Rizzo wasn't giving you much anyway. But alongside that, the pitching as a whole was not good. Nestor Cortez needs to get it together here. Carlos Rodon needs to get it together and figure it out instead of crying in the dugout. There's no feeling sorry for you when you are in those pinstripes, chucking duds and meatballs to the Blue Jays lineup. Garrett Cole gets a pass right now since he's just now returning from injury, and he's getting better every single start. But this team has been moping around and pouting for the last 2 weeks. It was only a matter of time before somebody blew up. That person who blew up was Marcus Stroman, and I don't blame him one bit. That team needed a jolt of energy, and look at what happened after Stroman got into them. They scored 16 runs 2 games ago or 3 games ago against the Blue Jays, and Gleyber Torres and DJ LeMahieu start acting like they figured out how to play professional baseball again. And even through those struggles in June, Juan Soto wasn't the Juan Soto that we know. The glue that kept this team together was Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is on some tear. I mean, just a historical tear right now. In his last 50 games, Dylan, he's batting .398 with a slash in .507 and .932. That is the highest. I'm sorry, I didn't even mention his OPS. OPS of 1.439. That is the highest OPS over any 50-game season spanned by a right-handed hitter ever. He's on some tear right now. But that leadership from the captain, Aaron Judge, has been clutch, and bringing some dogs into that clubhouse like Alex Verdugo and Marcus Stroman, somebody who has that tenacity and intensity to get into his teammates that can turn a negative into a positive. And we saw the same thing with the Cubs and Justin Steele and what he did there with the Cubs. And Dylan, you can let me know, what did you make of Justin Steele getting into that Cubs clubhouse?
I think with Justin Steele, you look at Justin Steele and what he brings. That's just a fierce competitor. It's a guy who just goes out, takes the baseball. I know he had the hamstring injury earlier in the year, but Steele is just trying to give life to that dead club that goes out there every single day and puts up pitiful offensive numbers. The bullpen is atrocious. I just think with Steele, he's trying to light a spark, because maybe we can go back on it here. I'm going to say it. I think Craig Counsell is a reason for some of this. I know that you can say, now is an easier take to make, saying the Brewers are still fantastic with losing 2 aces in their rotation and trading away one of them. But I think when you look at it, you lose your manager like that. David Ross was a player's guy, and he showed some fire. I mean, we've seen him play with an edge. Counsell's just a strategist. He sits there chewing his bubble gum. He doesn't say much. He watches the game and is analytical, driven. I know he was a player too, but he's not that fiery guy that's going to wake up a club and say, this is unacceptable. And that's exactly what Steele said in his message. He said, look, this has gone on. It's one thing for this to happen a week. All right, yeah, it's a rough week. We didn't hit the ball. That's fine. This has been going on since the end of April. The end of April. And you're just now saying that message. That's something that should have been delivered a long, long time ago. There's enough veterans in that clubhouse that have won championships. Dansby Swanson, Cody Bellinger. Those guys need to step up and say something, because if not, you're going to lose the team. And the team's already lost. I think it's not an early season collapse. It's a year-long collapse at this point. The expectations were high coming into a very winnable division from the outside looking in. Right now, that doesn't even look like it's even on the horizon. And there's no reason to add at any deadline. There's no reason to subtract either. You're just in a lull spot where you can't do anything, and you're just stuck with what you got. So when you mismanage and misanalyze an offseason in terms of how well your club is, this is what you pay with when it comes to the repercussions.
Yeah, I'm going to connect this back to the Yankees a little bit. I think this team, the Yankees, are cut from the same cloth. And what I mean by that is by management, general managers, Jed Warrior and Brian Cashman. I think this Cubs team, I think this roster is poorly constructed. It looks good on paper just by looking at the names. Christopher Morel, Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki, Dansby Swanson. It looks so good on paper, but that lineup just isn't producing. The names are not producing. They need to figure out what to do with Pete Crow Armstrong. 3 for 23 on the road trip. That is embarrassing. Send him back to Iowa, get him some help, have him figure it out. The catchers in that lineup have been non-existent. I mean, what's going on there? And how much longer can you throw Kyle Hendricks out there? I know he had 2 good starts here recently, but it was almost fool's gold, pretty much fool's gold. How much longer can you keep throwing him out there on that mound?
He can't do it against an NL Central team. I know he had 1 good start against the Pirates. I'll give him that. But the Pirates have usually lit him up. The Reds, you put him in Great American Ballpark, he's a guaranteed 5+ earned runs. The teams have seen him so long in the division that when you see someone that throws 88 miles an hour, multiple times, you just learn it. And it's easier to adjust to 88 than it is at 99. Maybe you have his number and he throws 99, but it's still something you have to adjust to. When you're throwing 88, you're losing that touch. You're only going to get rocked. So, I mean, there's so many issues with the team. I'd probably cut 15 players if I was in charge now, and just let it ride from there. But there's just so much going on that it's honestly embarrassing. They're the hardest watch in the league right now, and I would put that down.
So, in your opinion, is this something that can't be resolved? There's no solution. This is a lost season. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, not in 24. There's no way they can come back. I mean, even if players get hot, that offense is broken. They are historically bad through the lineup. There are multiple guys. There's like 4 players in the lineup hitting under 210.
Oh man,
that can't happen. And Swanson's hitting 213. Like it's so bad. Guys having bad years at the worst time. Suzuki pulls his oblique every 3rd day. So, I mean, there's a lot to break down there.
Oh man, that is unfortunate. Well, transitioning from some dark times, from some teams with high expectations, transitioning to some players who've been balling out, looking to secure a spot in the All-Star game down in Arlington, Texas here in a few weeks. And Dylan, who do you think, in your opinion, what players should be making their debut as a MLB All-Star?
Luis Rengifo. Luis Rengifo of the Los Angeles Angels. It's a guy who's hitting 317 this year, 6 homers, 21 stolen bases. I mean, he's a switch-hitting infielder. He's going to command a market. Only 27 years old. Wow. I thought of him as just like a, utility. He could slap the ball a little bit, second, short, third, play him wherever you want. But this is a guy this year who's really taken strides with his offensive game. He's a career 254 hitter, but this year he's 317. Wow. So I think he should be awarded, especially on a team that probably doesn't have many All-Stars with the Angels. So if you're going to pick someone, I would handpick Luis Rengifo because he deserves it, and he's honored of that spot.
I'm going to second that. I definitely think he can be a valuable piece for a team. He has 1 more year of arbitration, then he's a free agent. So it's not like you're giving up a crazy haul to get Rengifo, but yeah, like you said, there's not a lot of bright spots in that Angels lineup on that team, and he's one of them. So that's somebody I didn't even think of there. That's a solid pick.
Yeah, he's a good ball player. What about you?
I got Steven Kwan. Is it kind of crazy to think that he hasn't made an All-Star yet? But yeah, Steven Kwan. He's become one of the best hitters in the American League. And I don't mean somebody that's just popping singles over infielders' heads. This guy's spraying the ball all around the field and with some power too. He has 13 doubles this year and already has his career high in home runs with 7. Did I forget to mention he's leading baseball with a batting average of 368? We've always known how good of a fielder he is with 2 gold gloves, but nobody has been expecting this hitting performance from Steven Kwan. That's why I think he's deserving of his first All-Star appearance in Texas.
I like it. I'll pivot with another one. Kwani, okay. I think, should be a lock. I think he should start in left, too.
Yes.
I don't think he should just make it. I think he should start. I think it's going to be one of many All-Star appearances for him. He's a good ball player. I got to see him in AAA when he rehabbed here in Columbus, so that was really cool. He hits the ball. He plays the game the right way. I love the on-base guys, if you haven't been able to tell on the show many times. I'm going to go to the mound here. Okay. I'm going to the mound, and I'm looking at someone who started his career a little rocky, little bullpen, little starting, but he always has one team's number, and it's Tanner Houck. Tanner Houck of the Boston Red Sox. He's just filthy. His stuff's good. He finally had an offseason where he put it all together. He's making starts. His ERA is 2.56.
He's so good.
Like his strikeouts are up. His team is up. They were fine. Like Tanner Houck is proving that he could eventually be the number 1 starter in that rotation over Brian Bayo, over Cutter Crawford or anyone else in that rotation. It looks like Houck is going to be that ace going forward. He reminds me a lot of Clay Buchholz when he came out, but a lot livelier fastball, but kind of that lanky delivery and good stuff.
Yeah, Tanner Houck's disgusting. Every time he throws against the Yankees, he absolutely decimates that lineup. So that's a great pick. I got another pitcher for you, and he was my preseason Cy Young winner this year, Tariq Skubal. of the Tigers. I know you were like, what? Why would you pick him Cy Young? Are you kidding me? Last year was an anomaly. No. He's showing this year that it wasn't just a fluke. 9-3 record with a 2.32 ERA, a whip of 0.94. Man, him and Corbin Burns up there in the AL, it's a toss-up. He could get the start. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good pitcher, man. Every single time I look at him throw, he's solid. It's good lefty. I love good left-handed pitchers, especially when you can command it like that. Like, it's one thing to have a wild or soft toss and lefty. That guy throws hard, he spots well, and he just a fierce competitor out there. He's solid. I'm going to the bullpen here, and I'm looking at someone who hasn't gotten it, but he leads the MLB in saves. He's got 30 saves coming into July. Ryan Helsley of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Wow.
His ERA is sub-3. He's slamming the door whenever he takes the baseball. He looks like one of the best closers in baseball right now. His ERA is kind of high. I mean, it is about a 2. It's in the 2s, which as a closer, I mean, you'd like to be under that. I know it's still impressive, but Helsley, he's got 30 saves, and he's shutting close games out there for the Cardinals. And that's something I think if the Cubs had a closer, it would be flipped with the Cardinals right now. If they had a 20, heck, even a 15-game saver right now, they'd be in better shape than they are right now.
No doubt. I like those. I like all those picks from you. Moving down the calendar in July, going from the All-Star break, 2 weeks later, we're going to talk some deadline. And we're going to discuss a team that we think needs to add at the deadline. Now I'm going to go ahead and start this one off. A team that needs to add at the deadline. The Houston Astros. You know that the Astros are 3.5 games out of first place in the AL West. A month ago, we thought this team was dead in the water. We thought that they had to blow it up. Now look at them, Dylan. Jose Abreu no longer there. There's a big hole at first base on that roster. I think the Houston Astros should go after Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That makes that team terrifying. Their pitching is coming together nicely. Alex Bregman has figured it out after his earlier slump. Jose Altuve is still
Your mic cut out. Your mic cut out.
What was the last thing you heard?
There we go. Talking about Altuve.
Oh, I was saying, Jose Altuve is still Jose Altuve. Just imagine if you drop Vladdy Jr. next to Yordan Alvarez in that lineup. Just
that would be torture. They'd win the division.
Yes.
I think they need more. They would need Chris Bassett too, because they need starting pitching.
I agree.
And I'm gonna go out on a limb. Everyone might call me crazy for this take because I've never said his name on the show. I think Trevor Bauer is going to be an Astro in the next couple of weeks.
So we're both on the Astros here.
I do, but I think Trevor Bauer is going to be an Astro. I think he makes his return to Major League Baseball. I think he's going to be an Astro. And I'm saying this on July 1st. I think he'll be an Astro come the deadline.
All right, clip it.
I think he will be there. But yeah, there are many different things here. Looking at the standings, I think a team I'd love to add, and I wanted to say this a couple weeks ago, but I want the Pittsburgh Pirates to go get Luis Robert. I think Luis Robert in the black and gold in center field, because that's all that team's missing. I mean, you put a center fielder out there, man, like Luis Robert. The pitching rotation's solid. The bullpen is good enough. You got a very, very foundational infield there. You got Brian Reynolds in the outfield, Key Brian Hayes, O'Neal Cruz. But you just get that true proven bat. And I know he's injury prone and his average is kind of low this year. But Luis Robert there, that's an affordable contract for the Pirates to do, 7 for $70. And he's just a little bit later in that deal, so he'll have a couple years left to control. It's going to cost him a lot, but I don't think it worries them right now because they got Paul Skeens dealing in that rotation. Jared Jones looks good. There's a lot of pieces there that if they could also get a first baseman too in the offseason, I think that's a team with Luis Robert on the roster. Not only could make them a push for the wild card this year, but they could be NL Central champs come next season.
I definitely see wild card in their future for this season. That's what I see for them. But those are good ads. Really good ads. Any more teams, or that's all you got there?
I think I want to say a team that I think will make a push to where they could be buyers, and we're not even thinking about them right now. I think the Washington Nationals could add a pitcher.
Wow. Okay.
Because you look at like the Mets are above them. I don't think they're going anywhere. The Braves are solid, but they've kind of been.
The Mets have been good recently.
I know.
The issue is, what are you buying for? Are you buying a wild card spot?
Yeah.
Really?
I'd buy for a wild card spot because it gets those guys in your room. James Wood's up. I think he's already up. He's going to make an impact. There's enough pieces there that they could at least compete for a wild card. And I think that the front office shows they believe in that team.
Yeah.
And those young guys will get a taste of the postseason if they get in there.
Mackenzie Gore,
DJ Hers, a couple other pieces in that rotation. I mean, one of the guys I saw over the weekend, that lefty, Mitchell Parker, I mean, they were smoking him around the yard, but his ERA is still intact. He's like 3.4, 3.3. That's solid for another lefty pitcher in that rotation. So maybe they let these young kids ride and it could get them somewhere. You never know.
Yeah. Those are good. I like the idea of the Nationals wanting to compete. You don't see a lot of young teams actually try and go for it and get some experience in the postseason. So I really like that. All right, so kept the show pretty tight today, and we're going to finish off with a pretty light topic. Dylan and I visited some stadiums and added some MLB stadiums to our catalog. Dylan was just in Florida, and he got a chance to visit one of the cathedrals of baseball, Tropicana Field. Dylan, what were your thoughts on?
I think everyone's heard things. Everyone has heard like, oh, the Trop's a dump. It looks like a spaceship. No parking, bad like so many different things there. And the Uber driver from Boston, hardcore Boston accent, been down here 15 years, man. I'm telling you, it's the best ballpark in the world. Air conditioning, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, like you might have me sold. We'll see. I get out of the car and I just walked into this weird place. Like, first of all, I mean, if you haven't been to Tropicana Field, it drop you off. It's kind of a weird setup. Parking's just weird. And you go in and you just immediately are like on the story. And then there's like the concourse is laid out so strange. And you warned me about it when you went. You walk around the place and at some level it's like, oh, this is nice. Like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then next thing you know, boom, there's a fat usher sitting with a gate that goes down to the lot, like out to where it's like the concourse is cut off. You can't go that way. So you're like, now I got to go upstairs and go around this level. And then on that level, there's also something that blocks off to where you can only walk around the ballpark if you're out onto the field level area and you're literally walking around the rail to go down the seats. That's the only place where you can actually walk around the whole place. Now, I will say their food blew me away in terms of like how much stuff they had. You could get anything you wanted to eat at that place. Very, very pricey. $18 for a beer. $18. The beer bat was $30. $30. That's maybe a beer and a half in there. $30. I'm like, man, my tickets were $17. You're paying for that.
They got to make it up somewhere else.
And the organization, like they don't throw out T-shirts because they probably can't afford to make them. But they don't throw out T-shirts. There's no in-game entertainment. There's nothing else going on there. They do one small race, and I got to pet a stingray, so that was cool. But I mean, the place is just the worst, man. Like, it was unique. I'll give it that. It was unique. I thought the lights were pretty cool. The closer entrance for Pete Fairbanks really blew me away. But another thing, they just shoved the 50-50 raffle down your gullet when you're in that place. Everywhere you look, 50-50, 50-50. They're walking up and down the stands like every single second. It's out on the video board every half inning. Fans, remember, this is the total. And they throw it at you. And they're pretty good at it. 14,000 in the ballpark. The jackpot was 25,000. So that's about over a dollar a person at least. Like, and they block off the whole top level because no one goes up there because there's not enough people to go. Like, it feels like a 1980s ballpark that's just, they haven't upgraded it. They haven't done any renovations.
Yeah.
It just feels old, but it's not that old in the 90s. Like, I don't know. It's just funky.
I think they got approved to build a new stadium, but in the meantime, they're in the trial. But I want to know, like, baseball, it's like baseball feel. Like, was it good? How did it feel to watch a baseball game?
I thought it did feel a little weird, but it was, I mean, at the end of the day, it still felt like baseball to me.
Okay.
But it was definitely weird because you're tracking fly balls and you're like, oh, I lost it in the dome sky. Like, it is weird, but yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to share my experience first time at Chase Field down in Arizona. First time there, literally plopped in the middle of a desert. Really weird. I've never been out there, so that was something to get used to. It's very dim there. There's not a lot of natural lighting in Chase Field. I don't know if it's because of the dome. There's just not enough lights to go around. I'm not sure. The roof was closed. It was on Father's Day. Great fans. The fans were so nice and kind, really good fans. But the worst part, the air conditioning was not working.
Oh.
Sitting in the outfield. The air conditioning was not working for like 4 innings. And obviously it's over 100 degrees there. So I'm just sitting there toasting. Hotter than fish grease. Toasting. But other than that, it was really good. A lot of people showed up. The fans were great. Didn't like how dim it was. Not a lot of natural lighting. I've been to a lot more baseball experiences that I enjoyed better. But Chase Field, not bad. Not bad at all. Especially in the middle of a desert.
Yeah. It always looked cool on TV.
Yeah. They got the pool out there in right center field.
So you saw a pool. I touched a stingray. We did something unique with water in a ballpark. That's just weird.
Like the huge scoreboard. It's that's a pretty nice feature, I guess. Concourses felt really tight. That's our stadium review.
I still think the greatest concourse I've ever seen is PNC Park. You could drive 6 lanes of a highway on their concourse, and it's clean. There's not trash. There's not a thing of trash on the ground.
I need to get there.
Yeah, that's one you got to cross off soon. That's a nice one.
If somebody out there listening wants to sponsor us for stadium reviews, they'll pay us to go visit MLB stadiums.
Yeah, we do it.
Hit us up. We will do that in a heartbeat. But yeah, that's what we have here for our stadium review. And that's what we have here for the Rundown podcast. We appreciate you all checking in. Sorry we've been distant the past few weeks. Like I said, out on vacation. But right now, especially with the deadline coming up, we're going to be right into it. Weekly content coming daily. We appreciate all the support. Follow us on all our social medias. And we'll be back with you soon. Go check us out at the Rundown.